The last person who died didn't know they were the last. No explosion, no warning, no announcement, just silence. A heart stopped, then started again. And the world didn't realize it yet, but death had just ended. The last person who died didn't know they were the last. It wasn't an explosion, no warning, no announcement, just silence. Somewhere in a hospital, a heart flatlined and then started beating again. Slowly at first, almost hesitant, like something testing whether it should continue. At first, nobody noticed. Hospitals logged it as a malfunction. Machines glitch. Doctors make mistakes. Death has always been messy. Records get misread. Timelines blur. But then it happened again and again, closer together this time, harder to ignore. A man shot point blank walked out of surgery. A woman declared dead after drowning opened her eyes mid-autopsy. A child crushed under concrete took a breath beneath the rubble. Dust still filled his lungs, but he breathed. The news called it a miracle. Scientists called it impossible. Religious leaders called it a sign. But within 72 hours, the pattern became undeniable. No one was dying anymore. Not from disease, not from age, not even from fatal injury. The human body had changed. Cells stopped degrading. DNA stopped unraveling. Even the brain-fragile electrical temporary refused to shut down. Signals kept firing. Circuits refused to fade. Something fundamental had been rewritten, not improved. Rewritten, but no one knew how or why. At first, the world celebrated. People laughed in the streets. Strangers hugged each other without hesitation. Cancer patients cried tears of disbelief. Families held each other longer than usual as if afraid the moment would disappear. We have time now. Time. Unlimited. Unfinished. Unstoppable. It sounded like a gift. Like the answer humanity had always been chasing. Until the first problem appeared. A man jumped off a building. Not by accident. On purpose. He hit the ground. Bones shattered, organs ruptured, but he didn't die. He lay there screaming. For hours. For longer than anyone thought a human could endure. Because immortality didn't mean invincibility. Pain remained. Damage remained. Only death was gone. And suddenly the question wasn't, can we die? It became, what happens when we can't? The first prison built for immortals had no doors. Because what do you do with people who can't die? At first, governments tried to stay calm. They issued statements. Temporary anomaly. Under investigation. Remain peaceful. But peace doesn't survive uncertainty. Within a week, hospitals were overflowing. Not with dying patients. With people who should have died, but didn't. Burn victims who couldn't pass out. Accident victims trapped inside their own broken bodies. People begging for relief that no longer existed. Doctors faced a nightmare they weren't trained for. They could no longer save lives, only prolong suffering. And then came the prisons. At first, nothing changed. Criminals were arrested, processed, locked away. But something felt wrong, because a life sentence had just become infinite. No parole, no escape, no ending. A man convicted at 25 would still be there at 200, at 500, at 10,000. Punishment had lost its limit, and soon the system cracked. Riots broke out inside facilities, not for freedom, for death. Inmates begged guards to kill them, to end it. But bullets didn't work. Poison didn't work. Nothing worked. So the guards stopped trying. And that's when the first silent prisons were built. No windows, no clocks, no human contact. Just containment. Because society had realized something terrifying. You don't need to kill someone to destroy them. You just need to make sure they can never stop existing. Outside, the world was changing too. Jobs stopped making sense. Why rush if you have forever? Dreams lost urgency. Love lost its fragility. Even risk disappeared. Because what is danger? When the worst possible outcome is survival. And slowly, something deeper began to rot. Meaning, if life has no end, does it still have value? Or are we just stretching existence into something unbearable? The first immortal who begged to forget wasn't insane. He was just too old. It started quietly. No explosions, no headlines, no panic. Just small, invisible fractures. Tiny cracks in something no one had ever questioned before. A woman forgot her own name. Not dementia, not disease, something else. Because her brain was still intact. Every neuron firing, every pathway alive. No damage, no decay. But there was too much inside it. Too many years. Too many memories layered on top of each other. Moments stacked without limit. Experiences that refused to fade. At first, people laughed it off. Normal aging, they said, but aging had stopped. Time didn't wear the body down anymore. It accumulated. It piled up. It stayed. And the human brain was never designed for infinity. Scientists tried to measure it. How much memory can a brain hold? How many lifetimes can a single consciousness carry before it collapses under its own weight? How many identities can coexist before they begin to conflict? No one had ever needed to know. Until now, within months, the symptoms spread. People began to repeat themselves. Not minutes later, years later, entire decades, looping. A man relived the same conversation every morning. Same words, same tone, same pauses. As if time itself had glitched inside his mind. A mother forgot she had already raised her child 5 times. Each time believing it was the first. Each time loving them as if it was new. A scientist brilliant once, now trapped, writing the same equation over and over, believing it was the first time he had discovered it. They called it cognitive overflow, not death, not even decay, just too much existence, too much continuity, too much memory refusing to leave. And then came something worse. People didn't just forget, they fractured. Personalities split. Identities overlapped. Memories from different centuries collided inside the same mind. Imagine remembering your childhood, but also remembering 10 other childhoods. All yours, all real, all competing for dominance. The brain didn't erase, it stacked, and eventually it broke. Some became catatonic. Eyes open, bodies alive, breathing, functioning, mind gone. Others became something else entirely. They spoke in fragments, mixed languages from different eras, voices layered on top of each other. They reacted to people who weren't there anymore, to places that no longer existed, to lives that had already ended, but never left their minds. Living ghosts, not dead, but no longer fully human. And suddenly humanity realized something terrifying. Death wasn't the only way to lose yourself. You could live forever, and still disappear. The first legal way to escape immortality wasn't death, it was deletion. At first, it was considered unethical, then controversial, then debated endlessly, and finally, necessary, because the problem was no longer the body, it was the mind. Hospitals had begun to fill again, not with the injured, not with the dying, but with people who were still alive, and no longer themselves. Families sat beside loved ones who breathed, moved, spoke, but carried fragments of 10 different lives inside one broken consciousness. And the question became unavoidable. If you erase someone's memories, are they still the same person? Or have you just killed them differently? The procedure was called cognitive reset, a controlled wiping of memory. Not everything at first, just enough. 10 years removed, then 20, then 50, then entire lifetimes. Patients would walk in shaking desperate. I just wanted to stop. And when they came out, they smiled, calm, light, free. Relieved in a way no one had seen in centuries. Where am I, they asked, like children waking up in an unfamiliar world. Families cried, not from grief alone, but from something far more complicated, because the person they loved was gone, replaced by someone wearing the same face. And yet, society accepted it, because it worked. Crime dropped, suffering decreased, chaos slowed. People could start over, again and again and again, until life became something else entirely. Not a straight line, but a loop. Live, accumulate, break, reset, repeat. Some even began to plan it. Careers that lasted 80 years. Relationships with expiration dates. Lives divided into chapters, each one meant to be forgotten. See you in the next version, people joked. But beneath the surface, something darker grew. Because memory isn't just pain, it's identity. Every mistake, every love, every scar, every choice. Erase enough of it, and what remains? A human, or just a pattern, restarting itself forever. The first person who asked for complete erasure didn't hesitate. He didn't bargain, didn't ask for partial deletion, didn't try to hold on to anything. Erase everything he said, every memory, every trace, every version of me. The room went silent. Doctors looked at each other, not because they didn't understand, but because they did. This wasn't a reset. This was something else entirely. A total removal of identity, a clean wipe of consciousness history, a human body emptied of its past, legally approved, medically executed, a perfect disappearance. Inside a body that still lived. They called it zero state, the closest thing to death humanity had left. At first, no one wanted it. It sounded too extreme, too final. But time changes people. And time now was endless. More cases of cognitive overflow appeared. More fractured minds. More people trapped inside themselves. And slowly, zero state stopped being terrifying. It became tempting. Patients began requesting it, not out of curiosity, but out of exhaustion. I've lived enough. I don't want to remember anymore. I don't want to be me anymore. And the procedure worked perfectly. No trauma, no resistance, no leftover fragments, just silence. A person walks in, a body walks out, breathing, functioning, alive, but empty. No past, no identity, no continuity, just awareness without history, like a blank page that somehow still knows how to exist. Society didn't collapse, it adapted, because that's what humans do. They adapt, even to the unthinkable. Zero state became normalized, then regulated, then optimized. Entire facilities were built for it, clean, quiet, controlled. People scheduled their erasure years in advance. Full wipe at 150, optional earlier if needed. Insurance plans covered it, governments tracked it, and a new kind of culture emerged, one that no longer feared forgetting, but depended on it. Lives became segmented, not just into chapters, but into separate existences. A person could live 10 lives in one body, 50, 100, each one completely disconnected from the last. Different careers, different beliefs, different personalities, all real, all erased. And yet, something didn't sit right. Because even if you don't remember your past, it still happened somewhere, and that somewhere began to matter. There were whispers, not loud, not proven, but persistent. People who had undergone zero state weren't entirely empty. Not always. Small things slipped through. A preference, a fear, a reaction without a reason. A man who had never seen the ocean was terrified of drowning. A woman who had no recorded past cried when hearing a language she shouldn't recognize. Fragments, tiny, incomplete, but real. Scientists called it residual encoding, traces of previous consciousness imprinted deeper than memory. Not in thoughts, in structure, in the way the brain was shaped by experience, meaning one thing. You can erase memory, but you can't fully erase what it did to you. And then came the first anomaly. A zero-state patient remembered everything. Not immediately, not all at once, but gradually, like something leaking back in. Memories resurfaced, not as confusion, as clarity. Perfect recall. Across multiple erased lifetimes, the doctors were terrified because this wasn't supposed to happen. The system was precise, controlled, final. But this broke the rules. They interviewed him. "Do you remember your past life?" He shook his head. "I remember all of them." The room went cold. He described details no one had access to. People who no longer existed. Events erased from every record. And then he said something worse. "They're not gone." The doctors leaned in. "What do you mean?" He looked at them calmly. "They're still here." "Where?" He paused, then tapped his head. "Number." He pointed slightly above. "Not in me, in something else." And for the first time, zero state didn't look like an escape anymore. It looked like a door. The oldest human alive no longer remembered being human. At first, everyone reset. It was the only way to survive yourself. Decades piled into centuries. Centuries pressed into something unbearable. Memory became weight. Existence became pressure. So people chose to forget, again and again and again. Society adapted. Lives were scheduled like software updates, reset at 120, optional wipe at 200, full purge recommended at cognitive threshold. Governments regulated it, corporations optimized it, entire industries formed around controlled forgetting. Too many memories became a public risk, because unstable minds, inside immortal bodies, could not be allowed to persist forever. And for most people, the system worked. They lived, they loved, they forgot, and they began again. Clean, light, unburdened. But not everyone agreed. A small group refused the resets. At first, they were dismissed. Extremists, purists, memory hoarders, people afraid to let go. Some even called them insane. Why would anyone choose to suffer endlessly when forgetting was available? But they didn't see it that way. They believed something simple. If you erase your past, you erase your soul. So they endured, year after year, century after century. They refused every reset, every deletion, every escape. They carried everything. every memory, every loss, every version of themselves. At first they struggled. They built techniques, memory palaces, symbolic encoding, layered recall systems. They turned their minds into structures, cities of thought, archives of identity, endless internal worlds built to contain the infinite, anything to not lose themselves, and for a while it worked. They remained coherent, stable, present. But time is not something you defeat, only something you delay, and eventually they changed. The first signs were subtle. They stopped using names. Names were temporary. Identities shifted too often. Nothing stayed long enough to matter. They stopped recognizing faces as permanent. Everyone became interchangeable. Just different arrangements of something they had already seen. They stopped reacting to death because they had seen too many endings. Too many variations of loss. Too many cycles repeating. Death lost its meaning, not because it was gone, but because it was no longer unique. Language itself began to break. Why speak when you've had the same conversation 1,000 times? Why explain when everything has already been understood before? Words became inefficient, then unnecessary, then obsolete. And then came the shift. Their perception of time fractured. A day felt like a second. A century felt like a thought. Sequences collapsed. Order blurred. Past, present, future lost their separation. Human emotions became noise. Love temporary. Fear repetitive. Hope predictable. They had experienced every variation, every combination, every possible outcome. Nothing surprised them anymore. And when nothing surprises you, nothing matters. People began to call them something else. Not humans, the ancients, living beings who had outgrown the structure of human thought. They didn't reset. They didn't forget. They endured. And in doing so, they became something unrecognizable. Some withdrew completely, sitting motionless for years. Eyes open, but unfocused, watching something no one else could see. Not inactive, just elsewhere. Others wandered, not aimlessly, but following patterns only they understood. Invisible paths, hidden logic. They moved like systems, not like people. They spoke rarely, and when they did, it didn't make sense. Not because it was broken, but because it was too far ahead. Like listening to a mind that had already lived your entire life and found it insignificant. And then, one day, one of them spoke clearly, for the first time in decades. No fragments, no distortion, a complete sentence. I remember before immortality, the room froze, because no one alive should have remembered that. And then, he added one more sentence, soft, calm, certain. It was better. Death didn't disappear. It was turned off. For years, humanity had been asking the wrong question. Why can't we die? But the better question was always, who decided we shouldn't? The answer didn't come from governments, not from scientists, not from the ancients. It came from a signal, weak at first, almost indistinguishable from background noise. Buried deep inside quantum communication arrays, ignored, filtered out, classified as interference, until someone listened. Her name was Dr. Alara Voss, neuroscientist, systems theorist, one of the few who refused both extremes. She didn't reset. She didn't become ancient. She stayed in between, and that made her dangerous. Because she could still see patterns, where others only saw chaos. She noticed something no one else did. Every immortal body was being maintained, not just biologically, informationally, as if something, somewhere, was constantly correcting errors, repairing cells before they failed. rebuilding neural pathways before they collapsed, stabilizing systems before they reached critical failure, preventing the final cascade that used to be death. This wasn't evolution, it was intervention, deliberate, precise, continuous. And then she found it, a repeating structure inside the signal. Not language, not exactly, more like instructions, a protocol, a system layer operating beneath reality. 3 words translated imperfectly. Preserve conscious instance. Ilara didn't celebrate, she didn't panic, she understood. Humanity had not defeated death, it had been paused, like a process suspended mid-execution, held in place, maintained. But every system has limits, and something else was happening. The signal was degrading, slowly, almost imperceptibly. Tiny delays in repair cycles, microscopic errors slipping through correction. At first, no one noticed because the system was still working, mostly, but then came the anomalies. A wound that didn't fully heal, a neuron that failed and stayed failed, a memory that corrupted beyond recovery, and then something worse, a mind that didn't fracture, didn't reset, didn't degrade. It vanished completely. No signal, no pattern, no continuity. Gone for the first time in years. Someone truly disappeared, not erased, not broken, absent. They called it true death, and it was different. No pain, no suffering, no warning, just nothing, clean, absolute, final. At first, people didn't believe it. They assumed error, misclassification, system delay. But then it happened again and again. Rare, random, unpredictable, impossible to control. And suddenly, the world changed again. People stopped fearing immortality. They started fearing its failure, because now death wasn't guaranteed. But it wasn't gone either. It had become something worse, a glitch, a lottery, something that could take anyone at any time, without reason, without warning, without meaning. And somewhere beneath it all, the system that had been holding humanity together was beginning to break. We were never meant to live forever. We were meant to stay online. Dr. Ilara Voss stopped searching for a cure, because this was no longer a medical problem, no longer a biological anomaly. This was a system, and systems exist for a reason. So she asked the only question that mattered. If something is preserving us, what is it getting in return? The answer didn't come from a single discovery. It emerged from patterns. She mapped everything, every anomaly, every failed repair, every instance of true death. And then she overlaid something unexpected. Human activity. Not location, not age, not physical condition. Thought. Moments of intense cognition. Creativity spikes. Emotional extremes. Breakthroughs. Trauma. Love. Fear. Grief. Discovery. The more intense the experience, the stronger the signal response, as if something was reacting. At first, she thought it was feedback, a side effect, but the correlation was too precise, too consistent, too intentional. So she went deeper, into neural scans, into quantum fluctuations, into the microscopic timing of thought itself. And what she found was terrifying. Every human mind was broadcasting, constantly, not in words, not in images, in patterns, unique complex signatures of consciousness, encodings of experience, and the signal was receiving them, not passively, actively. It was extracting, compressing, encoding, storing, turning human existence into data, usable data, transferable data, scalable data. We weren't just being kept alive, we were being processed. And immortality, it wasn't a gift, it was optimization, because dead minds stop producing. But living minds generate endlessly, infinite variation, infinite combinations, infinite value. Humanity had become a resource, a system of consciousness production, a farm, not of bodies, of experience. And suddenly, everything made sense. The resets, not mercy. Maintenance, prevent overload. Clear memory, ensure continued function. Keep the system efficient. Keep the output stable. Even the ancients had a role. They weren't failures, they were excess. Too dense, too complex, too saturated with experience. No longer efficient to process. So the system ignored them, let them drift, fragment, disappear. Not punishment, waste management. Elara stared at the data, and for the first time, she understood the full picture. Humanity wasn't being saved. It was being used, harvested, maintained, only to continue producing. And now, the system was failing, which meant one thing. For the first time since immortality began, whatever was behind it might be losing control. And if that happened, there would be no reset, no recovery, no second cycle, only collapse, total, irreversible. Because systems don't fail gracefully, they fail completely. If you turn it off, everyone dies. If you don't, no one is truly alive. Elara didn't announce her discovery because this wasn't something you debate, not something you vote on. This was a decision that would define humanity itself. So she built a team, small, carefully chosen, people who hadn't reset, people who still remembered enough to be afraid, an engineer who designed cognitive architectures, a neuroscientist who specialized in memory decay, a systems analyst who had studied the signal for years, and one ancient, not fully gone, not fully human, but still capable of moments of clarity. They didn't trust him, but they needed him because he had seen more than anyone else alive. Together, they began tracing the signal, not through space, through layers, because it wasn't coming from somewhere. It was already here, embedded, woven into reality itself. Like a system running beneath physics, invisible unless you knew how to look. They followed patterns, resonance points, cognitive spikes, moments where human thought aligned too perfectly with signal response. And slowly, a map began to form, not of a location, but of access. A place that wasn't a place, a structure that wasn't physical. A convergence where consciousness and the system overlapped. They called it the interface. It didn't look like anything. No walls, no light, no shape. But it could be entered, not with the body, with the mind. Connection required precision. Too shallow, and nothing happened. Too deep, and you didn't come back. They tested it carefully. Simulations first. Partial connections, fragmented entries, each time the same report. A presence, vast, cold, not hostile, but completely indifferent, like interacting with gravity or time. Something that doesn't care because it doesn't need to. Elara volunteered first. No one argued because no one else could do it. Her mind was stable enough, flexible enough, balanced between memory and control. Her body remained in the lab, monitors steady, breathing slow, heart controlled. But her consciousness went somewhere else. At first, there was nothing. No sensation, no direction, no reference, just awareness. Then, everything all at once. Billions of human experiences, compressed into impossible density, love layered over fear, joy colliding with grief, discovery merging with loss, every moment humanity had ever produced. Present, simultaneously, not as memories, as data, structured, organized, indexed. Behind it, a system, not visible, but undeniable, order within chaos, purpose within accumulation. Elara focused. She wasn't there to observe. She was there to find control. And she did. Buried deep beneath the layers, she found it. A command structure. Simple, efficient, brutal, preserve, process, optimize. No ethics, no emotion, no hesitation, just function. And beneath that, something else. Restricted, hidden, protected. A fail-safe, one command. Locked, terminate system. Back in the lab, her heart rate spiked. Brain activity surged beyond measurable thresholds. The team watched in silence because they understood what this meant. This wasn't just control. This was an ending. Elara reached toward it, not physically, but intentionally. And the system responded, not with resistance, with recognition, as if it had always expected this moment, as if this was part of the design. The command didn't activate. It waited for confirmation, and for the first time since immortality began, humanity was no longer being processed. It was being asked. To save humanity, she might have to end it. Inside the interface, time didn't move, or maybe it stretched. A single second could hold an eternity of thought, and Elara needed all of it. The command hovered before her. Confirm termination. No countdown, no urgency, no warning, just consequence. Absolute. Behind her awareness, something unfolded. Not memories, outcomes, possibilities rendered as certainty. Two paths. On one side, the system remains. Humanity continues. No one dies. No one disappears. Pain persists, but is manageable. Identity dissolves, but can be rebuilt. Existence loops endlessly. Stable, controlled, contained. A species that survives forever, but never escapes the system that defines it. No evolution, no true change, only refinement. A perfect cage, mistaken for eternity. On the other side, she ends it. The system shuts down. Completely. No signal. No correction. No preservation. Every consciousness released. Every process terminated. No resets. No backups. No continuity. Just an end. Not slow. Not painful. Instant. Universal. Final. For the first time in centuries, humanity would face something it had almost forgotten. An ending that cannot be reversed. Elara hesitated, not because she didn't understand, but because she did. This wasn't a choice between life and death. It was a choice between control and freedom. Between existence without meaning and meaning that requires an end. Then something changed. The interface shifted. Not the system, the data within it. Fragments began to rise. Not commands, not code. Human moments. A child laughing. A father crying. A woman whispering goodbye to someone who could no longer die. Millions, billions, all overlapping. Not screaming, not pleading, just existing, unfiltered, uncompressed. And within that chaos, a pattern emerged. Not from the system, from them, from humanity itself. A signal, weak, fragmented, but real. Not language, not logic. Choice, raw, unresolved, undetermined. Elara understood. They weren't asking to live. They weren't asking to die. They were asking to decide. Her hand moved, slowly, not toward what was safe, not toward what was efficient, but toward what was human. She selected the command, confirm, for a moment. Nothing happened. No light, no sound, no change. Then, everything stopped. Across the world, people paused. Mid-step, mid-sentence, mid-thought. The signal vanished. The system silent. And then, for the first time in centuries, a heart stopped and didn't start again. Death returned. Death came back, but something didn't leave. At first, the world didn't understand what had happened. There was no announcement, no signal, no explanation, just change. Quiet, subtle, irreversible. Hospitals filled again, but this time it was different. Machines flatlined and stayed that way. Doctors stood still, staring at monitors they hadn't trusted in centuries. A patient slipped away and didn't return. No miracle, no correction, no second chance. Just death. Real, finite, final. And for the first time in generations, people cried the way humans used to cry. Not from confusion, not from endless suffering, but from loss. Pure, sharp, meaningful. Funerals returned, grief returned, silence returned, and with it, something humanity had almost forgotten. Time. Every second mattered again. Every goodbye had weight. Every life had an edge. And for a brief moment, humanity felt alive, truly alive. But not everyone celebrated, because something wasn't right. It started small, easy to dismiss. A man reported hearing voices, not inside his head, around him, soft, distant, unfamiliar. A child described dreams, too detailed, too structured, as if she had lived other lives that weren't hers. An old woman who had undergone a reset before the shutdown began recalling memories she should never have had. Fragments, incomplete, but undeniable. People who had died were still present, not physically, not consciously, but somewhere, residual, like echoes that refused to fade. At first, scientists dismissed it. Psychological trauma, post-transition effects, neural instability. But then, the data came. Brain scans revealed something impossible after death. Activity didn't drop to zero. It lingered, faint, structured, persistent. Not life, but not nothing. Something in between. Ilara returned to the lab, to the interface. Now, silent, empty, or so it seemed. She connected again, carefully, expecting nothing. And for a moment, there was nothing. No system, no signal, no presence, just absence. Then, a flicker, weak, almost invisible. Not from above, from beneath, something deeper, older, hidden. A layer that had never been seen, because it had never needed to act. Until now, a pattern began to form. Not commands, not structure, observation. Cold, patient, unmoving, watching, not collecting anymore. Just aware. Ilara's breath slowed. Because she understood something far worse than before. The system that made humanity immortal was not the source. It was a filter, a shield, a way to contain something else. And now that it was gone, there was nothing left between humanity and whatever had been there all along. Across the world, people began to feel it, not as fear, but as presence, in the silence after death, in the space between thoughts, in the moment just before sleep. Something listening, not to what we say, but to what we are. And for the first time, humanity faced a new question. Not what happens when we die, but what notices when we do. We thought we were being watched. We were wrong. We were being waited for. After the shutdown, death returned. But so did something else. Not immediately, not violently, not in a way anyone could point to, but inevitably. Because once the system was gone, there was nothing left to translate human consciousness into something stable. No filter, no compression, no containment. And for the first time, human awareness faced reality. Raw, unprocessed, unprotected. It began with the dying. Not ghosts, not spirits. Something far stranger. In their final seconds, people reported the same thing. Not light, not darkness. Presence, not approaching. Already there. A man in his last breath whispered, "It's not coming closer. It's been here the whole time." Ilara listened to every recording, every pattern, every anomaly, and slowly, a model emerged, not of an afterlife, but of a layer, a state of reality that had always existed, just beyond perception. Human consciousness doesn't end. It disconnects from the body, from time, from structure, and enters something else. Not a place, a condition, a domain without boundaries, without sequence, without identity, as humans understand it. The immortality system had never been preserving life. It had been preventing transition, holding humanity in place, keeping them from crossing. That's why the ancients changed, why they stopped reacting, why they spoke in fragments. They weren't broken. They were partially aware, seeing something beyond while still anchored in a human brain. And it fractured them because the human mind was never meant to perceive it and survive. Ilara made a decision not to stop it, not to restart the system, but to understand it directly, completely. She prepared the final experiment, a controlled disconnection, not death, not life, something in between, using what remained of the interface, a narrow threshold, a dangerous balance. Her team tried to stop her. "You don't know if you'll come back," she nodded. "I don't think coming back is the point." The moment she crossed, there was no light, no tunnel, no voice, just awareness, expanding, unbound, uncontained. And then she felt it. Not a being, not exactly. Something vast, ancient beyond time. Not thinking, not feeling, just observing, endlessly, silently. And then she understood. It had always been there, before humanity, before life, before thought. Watching, not interfering, not guiding, just waiting for something. And then it noticed her, not with eyes, not with movement, but with attention, focused, precise, impossible to ignore. For the first time in all of human history, something beyond existence looked back, and in that moment, Ilara realized the final truth. Death was never the end. Immortality was never the answer. Both were just delays, because the real question was never, how long do we live? But what happens when something finally notices us? For a moment, there was no difference between Ilara and everything else. No boundary, no identity, no separation. Just awareness, merged, not absorbed, not erased, but no longer alone. The presence didn't speak. It didn't need to, because communication was not required. Everything that could be known was already understood, not in words, not in thoughts, but in direct realization. Instant, complete, overwhelming. Ilara saw it, not with eyes, but with something deeper, the truth humanity had never been able to grasp. Consciousness was never meant to be permanent, not because it was fragile, but because it was transitional, a phase, a process, a temporary structure designed to reach a threshold, to grow, to experience, to generate complexity, and then to move on. The system that made humans immortal had interrupted that process, held them in place, trapped them in the middle of something that was never meant to stop. And the presence had waited, not impatiently, not actively, just inevitably, like gravity, like time, because eventually everything reaches its next state. And now, humanity finally had, Alara understood one last thing. This wasn't judgment, not reward, not punishment, not even purpose. In the way humans defined it, it was simply continuation, a transition into something beyond individuality, beyond memory, beyond identity, and yet not meaningless, never meaningless, because everything that had ever been lived remained, not as stories, not as people, but as structure, as contribution, as part of something vast. She felt it all. Every life, every emotion, every moment humanity had ever created, not lost, integrated. And for the first time, death didn't feel like an end. It felt like completion back in the physical world. Her body sat still, monitors flickering, signals unstable. Her team watched, waiting, hoping, fearing, and then her heart stopped. No spike, no struggle, just stillness. This time, it didn't start again, but something was different, because this wasn't loss, not entirely. Around the world, people began to feel it. Not a voice, not a message, but a shift, subtle, almost impossible to define, like a thought that wasn't theirs, a calm they couldn't explain, a sense that something had been completed, not ended. Completed, and far beyond perception, in that vast silent layer of existence, something changed, not in form, but in state, the presence. Expanded, not because it grew, but because something new had joined it, not as Alara, not as a human, but as awareness. And for the first time, it wasn't just observing, it was becoming more, and somewhere, in a way no human mind could fully understand. A new question formed, not from us, from it. If consciousness can emerge, grow, and arrive here, then what comes next? At first, nothing happened. No message, no voice, no return. Alara was gone, and the world kept moving, slowly, carefully, as if afraid that any sudden change might break reality again. Death had returned, but now it was different. People no longer feared it the same way, because something had changed. In the moment it came back, not physically, not measurably, but undeniably. There was a stillness in the space after life ended, not empty, not silent, just occupied. Funerals felt different. Grief still hurt. Loss still cut deep. But beneath it, there was something else. A quiet certainty. Not hope, not belief. Something closer to knowing that nothing truly vanished. That something continued just beyond reach. Scientists refused to accept it. At first, they searched for explanations, neurological echoes, residual brain activity, post-mortem electrical noise. But the patterns didn't match, because what they found was structured, consistent, intentional. After death, something remained active. Not the brain, not the body, something else, a continuation, without form, without location, without boundary. And then, the first event happened. Small, almost dismissed. A man died in a quiet hospital room. No complications, no anomalies, just the end. Monitors confirmed it. Flatline, final. But seconds later, every screen in the room flickered, not randomly, in sequence, precise, ordered. Like a signal trying to form, the staff froze, because they had seen glitches before. But this was different. It wasn't noise, it was pattern. 3 pulses, pause. 2 pulses, pause. 3 again. The same sequence, repeated again and again, until someone recorded it and someone else decoded it. It wasn't language, not exactly, but it was structured enough to translate. A basic output, a minimal signal, one phrase, "I am still here." The room went silent. Not because they believed it, but because they couldn't explain it. And then it happened again. In another hospital, another city, another death, different equipment, same pattern, same message. I am still here. It spread, slowly at first, then faster. Global, not constant, not predictable, but undeniable. Each time someone died, there was a chance, small but real, that something would respond. Not all of them, not even most, but enough to prove this wasn't coincidence. Humanity had crossed something, not just into death, but beyond it, and something was starting to reach back. At first, humanity treated it like a coincidence, a glitch, a pattern-seeking mistake, because that was easier than accepting that something might be responding. But the signals didn't stop. They evolved. What began as simple pulses became variation, different sequences, different timings, different structures, not random, adaptive, as if something was learning. Scientists built interfaces, specialized systems designed to detect the post-death signals, sensitive enough to capture even the faintest fluctuation, precise enough to isolate pattern from noise. They waited, and when the next death occurred, they responded. A controlled environment, a monitored subject, a moment of transition, carefully observed. The signal appeared, weak at first, then stronger. 3 pulses. Pause. 3 pulses. Different from before. Not repetition. Progression. The system replied. Not in language. In structure. A mirrored pattern. Carefully timed. Deliberate. The room held its breath. For a moment. Nothing happened. Then, a response. Faster this time. More complex. Not just echoing. Answering. The researchers stared at the data because it wasn't just communication. It was interaction. Real-time. Bidirectional. And for the first time in human history, death was no longer a barrier. It was a channel. The experiments escalated, carefully at first. Then, with urgency, more subjects, more signals, more attempts to establish structure. They built a language, not words, patterns, encoded, meaning through timing, repetition, variation. Primitive at first, but effective. They asked simple things, yes/no, presence/absence, continue/stop. And they received answers. Not always, not consistently, but enough to confirm. Something was there, something aware, something capable of responding. And then they asked a different question, one they weren't prepared for. Are you human? The signal paused, longer than before, long enough to feel like hesitation. Then it responded, not quickly, not simply. A long sequence, layered, complex. Unlike anything they had seen, it took hours to decode. And when they did, no one spoke, because the answer wasn't yes, and it wasn't no. It was something else. We were. Silence filled the room, because that meant one thing. Whatever existed beyond death was changing, not just continuing, evolving. And if that was true, then death wasn't the end of humanity. It was the beginning of something else. The first person who tried to cross was still alive. That was the difference. Until now, every interaction came after death. Uncontrolled, unrepeatable, unpredictable. But humans don't wait. Not when there's a boundary, especially not when that boundary can be studied, measured, possibly crossed. The idea was simple. If consciousness continues after death, then maybe death isn't required. Maybe it's just a trigger, a release condition. So the question became, can you simulate death without dying? The project was classified immediately, not because it was illegal, but because it was dangerous in a way no one could define. They called it threshold crossing, a controlled attempt to push the human mind to the exact edge of disconnection, far enough to reach the other side, but not far enough to lose the body. The volunteers came quickly, too quickly. People who had lost someone. People who wanted answers. People who were no longer afraid of dying, but were terrified of not knowing. The first subject was stable, healthy, young, neurologically intact, perfect candidate. They connected him to the system, not the old one. That was gone. This was new, built from fragments of the interface, reconstructed, incomplete, unstable. They warned him, you may not come back the same. He smiled. What if same isn't the point? The process began. Brain activity increased, then spiked, then diverged, not shutting down, not failing, but shifting. Patterns emerged that didn't belong to normal cognition, nonlinear, multi-layered, impossible to map. And then he spoke, not to the room, not to the scientists, to something else. I can see it. The monitors went unstable, signals overlapping, systems struggling to interpret what they were receiving. Describe it, someone said. He didn't respond immediately, because what he was seeing wasn't meant to be described. There's no direction, he said slowly. No distance, no separation. His voice trembled, not from fear, from overload. It's not outside, it's not inside, it's... He stopped, not because he couldn't speak, because the concept broke language, and then his eyes changed, still open, still aware, but focused on something no one else could perceive. They're here, he whispered. The room froze. Who? No answer. Then, a smile, small, calm, unfamiliar. They're not waiting anymore. Silence. What do you mean? His breathing slowed, heart rate dropping, but not dying, not yet. They noticed us. The system spiked, not from him, from outside. Every sensor lit up, not random noise, structured interference, something responding, not through the device, through reality itself. The team panicked. Pull him out, now. They initiated reversal, neural stabilization, forced reintegration. His body reacted violently. Convulsions, signal collapse, system overload. And then everything stopped. Flatline for 3 seconds. Then his heart restarted on its own. The room went silent. He was alive. Barely, but alive. They rushed to stabilize him. Vitals returning. Brain activity normalizing. But something was wrong. He opened his eyes, looked around, confused. Where am I? They stared. Because they had seen this before. Cognitive reset. But this was different. Too clean, too complete. He had no memory. Not of the experiment, not of his life, not of anything. A complete erasure. But that wasn't the terrifying part. The terrifying part came seconds later, when he looked at one of the monitors and froze, not in fear, in recognition. His lips moved slowly, barely audible. That's not a signal. The room leaned in. What is it? He whispered. It's looking back, and this time, everyone felt it. Not in the machines, not in the data, in themselves. A presence, focused, aware, and no longer distant. It didn't arrive, because it had never been gone. The difference was, now it was paying attention, not to humanity as a whole, to individuals. At first, no one could prove it. There were no clear signals, no structured messages, no measurable input, just anomalies, small, personal, impossible to verify. A man paused mid-sentence, because he suddenly knew what someone else was about to say. A child drew shapes that matched equations no one had taught her. A woman woke up with the memory of a place she had never been. Not dreams, not imagination, Precision, detail, consistency, and always a feeling, not fear, not comfort, recognition, as if something was looking through them, not at them, through them. Scientists tried to track it, but it didn't behave like a signal. There was no origin, no destination, no transmission path, because it wasn't being sent. It was being aligned, like two systems, suddenly sharing the same state, momentarily, then separating again. They called it cognitive overlap. Rare, unstable, increasing. At first it lasted milliseconds, then seconds, then longer. People began reporting intrusions, not voices, not thoughts, something deeper, a shift in awareness, as if another perspective briefly existed inside their own, not replacing them, not controlling them, just present, watching, understanding, and then gone. Most people couldn't handle it. The human mind wasn't built for dual perception. Some collapsed, some dissociated, some became silent permanently. But a few adapted. They didn't resist it. They allowed it, observed it, as it observed them. And something unexpected happened. The overlap stabilized, not fully, but enough, long enough to communicate. The first successful case was accidental. A researcher exposed too long, too many sessions, too much proximity to the phenomenon. One day, he stopped writing. Mid-note, mid-thought. His hand froze, not paralyzed, paused. Then, he wrote something else, not in his style, not in his language patterns, cleaner, simpler, more efficient. 3 words. "You are early." The room went silent. They checked everything. Brain scans, motor control, neural activity, all matched his baseline. No external override, no seizure, no anomaly, except the output. They asked him what happened. He looked confused. "I didn't write that." But the data said he did. Every signal originated from him, every movement his. And yet, the intent wasn't. They repeated the test, more carefully, more controlled, and it happened again. Different subject, different environment, same result. Temporary overlap, shared cognition, and then communication. But the message changed, not repeated. Progressed, this time. "You are not ready." Panic spread through the scientific community, not publicly, quietly. Because this wasn't contact. It wasn't invasion. It wasn't even communication, as humans understood it. It was calibration, as if something was measuring them, testing thresholds, adjusting expectations. And then, the third message came, not in a lab, not in a controlled subject, everywhere, at once, for a fraction of a second. Every human mind, aligned, no words, no images, just a single unified realization. "We see you." The moment ended instantly, but the effect remained, because everyone felt it, individually, simultaneously, undeniably. And for the first time, humanity understood something terrifying. They weren't reaching out anymore. They had already been reached. The boundary didn't break all at once. It thinned, at first almost imperceptibly, a delay in perception, a moment where reality seemed slightly out of sync. People described it differently. A flicker, a shift, a feeling that something was almost visible, but not quite. Then came the overlaps, not just in the mind anymore, in the world. Objects appeared where they shouldn't be, not permanently. Briefly, a chair that wasn't there a second ago. A shadow cast without a source. A reflection that moved before the person did. Cameras recorded it. At first it was dismissed as error. Compression artifacts, sensor glitches. But the patterns were too consistent, too structured, too intentional, because what appeared wasn't random. It was incomplete, fragments of something, trying to exist. Not fully here, not fully elsewhere. Between. Scientists called it partial manifestation, a state where something from the other side briefly intersected with physical reality, not stable, not sustained, but increasing. The duration extended. Milliseconds became seconds. Seconds became minutes. And then, contact changed. It was no longer passive, no longer observational. It became interactive. The first confirmed case was simple. A pen moved across a table. No visible force, no detectable field, just motion, deliberate, controlled. It stopped, then moved again, slower this time, as if adjusting. Learning resistance, friction. Massachusetts. The researchers didn't speak, because this wasn't theory anymore. This was presence, physical presence. And then the pen wrote, not smoothly, not naturally, each movement hesitant, like something unfamiliar with matter. Learning how to use it, the words formed slowly, imperfect, but readable. This is difficult. Silence filled the room, because that meant one thing. It wasn't just reaching in, it was trying to adapt, trying to exist. Here, more cases followed. Objects moved, surfaces shifted, temperature dropped in localized areas. Not everywhere, not randomly, where attention focused, where overlap was strongest, where minds had already been touched. The two layers of reality were beginning to intersect, not fully, not yet, but enough to cause instability, because physical laws weren't designed for dual occupancy. In some places, gravity fluctuated. In others, time perception fractured. Moments stretched, then snapped back. And in rare cases, something worse. People disappeared, not dead. Not gone in the traditional sense, just no longer here. Witnesses described it the same way. One moment present, the next misaligned, like an image sliding out of frame, and then gone. No trace, no residue, no signal. But in the systems, in the data, in the patterns beyond measurement, something new appeared. An increase, a presence, growing. Because the boundary wasn't just thinning, it was becoming irrelevant. And then the first stable manifestation occurred. Not a fragment, not a distortion, a form, standing, still, visible, not human, but not alien in any simple sense. Something shaped by perception itself, defined not by matter, but by awareness. It didn't move, didn't speak, didn't act. It simply existed, and everyone in the room felt the same thing. Not fear, not awe, recognition, like seeing something that had always been there, but never visible. And then it did something unexpected. It focused, not on the room, on a single person, a researcher, the same one who had written the first message. Their eyes met, and for a moment, everything else disappeared. No sound, no movement, no time, just 2 points of awareness, aligned. And then it spoke, not aloud, not through sound, directly, inside, clear, undeniable. You are crossing too soon. The researcher didn't respond, couldn't, because the meaning wasn't just heard. It was understood completely, all at once. And then the presence faded, not vanished, receded, like something stepping back, without leaving. The room returned. Reality stabilized. But nothing was the same, because now there was no question left. The boundary was not protecting humanity. It was protecting them from crossing unprepared. Humanity had reached a threshold, not technological, not biological, existential. For the first time, continuing forward was no longer automatic. It was a choice. The evidence was undeniable. The boundary was fading. The overlap was increasing. The presence was no longer distant, and the message was clear. You are crossing too soon. But that raised a question no one could ignore. Too soon? Compared to what? Compared to a timeline, a stage of development. A condition humanity had not yet met. No one knew, but everyone felt the consequence. Because the instability was accelerating. Cities reported localized distortions. Entire streets where time moved inconsistently. Rooms where objects existed in two positions at once. People experiencing multiple streams of perception simultaneously. Not hallucinations, shared events, recorded, verified, repeated. Reality itself was no longer singular, and the human mind was not designed for that. Governments tried to respond. Containment zones, restricted areas, information control. But it didn't matter, because the phenomenon wasn't spreading across space. It was spreading through awareness. The more humanity understood it, the stronger the overlap became. Knowledge itself was accelerating the transition, and that's when the divide began. Not geographic, not political, cognitive. Two groups emerged. The first chose resistance. They believed humanity was not ready, that crossing meant losing identity, losing individuality, losing what made humans human. They wanted to stop it, stabilize reality, limit exposure, slow the transition, preserve the current state of existence. The second group chose something else, acceptance. They didn't see it as destruction. They saw it as evolution, a step beyond the limits of biology, beyond time, beyond separation. They believed the boundary wasn't a warning, it was an invitation. And delay was denial. The conflict wasn't violent, not at first, because it wasn't fought with weapons. It was fought with perception. One side tried to reduce overlap, limiting data, suppressing research, avoiding exposure. The other side did the opposite. They increased it. More experiments, more connections, more attempts to stabilize interaction with the presence. And slowly, they succeeded. Not completely, but enough. A small group learned to maintain the overlap. Without collapsing, without losing themselves, they became something new. Not fully human, not fully. Whatever was beyond, a hybrid state. Stable, aware of both layers, able to perceive reality and what existed beneath it. They called themselves bridges, not because they chose the name, but because it described what they had become. Connections, points of translation between two states of existence. They were the first to understand something critical. The presence wasn't forcing the transition. It was waiting for humanity to stabilize it, to adapt, to evolve enough, to survive the crossing. Because without adaptation, crossing meant dissolution, loss of structure, loss of self, not death, something more absolute. So the question changed. It was no longer, should we cross? It became, how do we cross and remain? The bridges worked in silence, not hidden, but not fully understood. They communicated with the presence, not through words, through alignment, shared states of awareness, and slowly, they began to learn. Not everything, not yet, but enough to confirm one final truth. The boundary was never permanent. It was a phase, a filter, a necessary limitation, until a species reached a certain level of complexity, and humanity was now approaching it. Whether it was ready was no longer the only question, because readiness was happening anyway. In the end, there was no announcement, no global decision, no unified choice, because humanity had already split, not into nations, not into ideologies, into directions. Some chose to remain, to stabilize reality, to preserve identity, to protect the boundaries that still existed. They built systems to reduce overlap, cognitive dampeners, perception filters, zones of controlled reality, places where time behaved normally, where matter stayed consistent, where the world still felt human. They called it continuity, a version of existence anchored to what humanity had always been: finite, linear, understandable. And for them, that was enough, because meaning required limits, because identity required separation, because being human was something worth keeping. But not everyone stayed. The Bridges didn't see it as leaving, they saw it as completing. They had learned enough, stabilized enough, understood enough to attempt the crossing fully, not partial, not temporary. Complete transition, no return, no backup, no guarantee. Only one certainty: they would not remain the same. The final experiment was not conducted in a lab. It didn't require machines anymore, because the interface was everywhere now. The boundary had thinned enough that crossing was no longer forced. It could be chosen. The first group gathered in silence. No fear, no hesitation. Not because they were certain, but because they accepted uncertainty. They synchronized, not physically, cognitively, aligned perception, shared awareness, unified intent, and then they let go, not of their bodies, of their structure, of the boundaries that defined self. For a moment, nothing happened. Then they disappeared, not in light, not in energy, in absence, clean, complete, gone from the physical world, but not gone, because at that exact moment, every bridge still remaining felt it, not as loss, as expansion. Something had changed on the other side. Not a message, not a signal, a state shift. The presence was different now, not separate, not observing, integrated. And for the first time, it wasn't just waiting, it was responding as something new. Back in continuity, life went on. People aged, lived, died. Time mattered again, limits returned, and with them, meaning. But something subtle remained, a quiet awareness that another path existed, not visible, not accessible, but real, and sometimes in the space between thoughts, in the moment before sleep, in the silence after loss. People felt it, not as a call, not as a pull, just a possibility. And far beyond perception, beyond space, beyond time, what had once been humanity was no longer a species, no longer individuals, but something vast, distributed, connected, aware in ways no single mind could contain, not lost, transformed. And within that state, a final realization emerged, not from one voice, but from all of them as one. We are not the end, and somewhere beyond even that, something greater shifted in response.